Okay. Hi everyone, I'm DRAK. I'll be your Paper Mario randomizer runner today for this seed/showcase. I've played the game for about 2 years, maybe something like that. And I'll be joined today with my commentators, Fish and Brad Armor.
Hello, I'm Fish. I've been playing the randomizer for a little over a year, so hopefully I can provide some insight and help ask DRAK some questions about what's going on.
And I'm Brad. I've also been playing the randomizer for a little over a year, so it's definitely one that you can start getting into and getting up to speed pretty quickly. But DRAK's definitely got the experience, and we're going to make sure to ask him a lot of questions to understand his logic in the routing that he's doing.
Okay, so if we're ready, we're about to start in 3, 2, 1, and go. So first thing you will be noticing, apart from the usual playthrough, we started in Toadstown, which is not usually what we start. In the randomizer, with the settings we are playing, we'll be only clearing 4 out of the 7 chapters that are usually in the game.
So what 4 are you hoping you get?
I'm hoping to not have chapter 3 and 7, which are the longest. Either ones of the 5 others are fine with me, but I really don't like 3 and 7 personally.
I also don't like when chapter 7 shows up in seeds.
So here, I'm doing a different route than usual, just to show you. The Star Summit, we can usually check the 7 stars. For this randomizer, we'll be seeing 4 figures that are representing the different chapters. Here in Logic, we can see the Mouser, which is chapter 2, the Shy Guy, which is chapter 4, the Yoshi, which is chapter 5, and the Bubble, which is chapter 6. So chapter 1, 3, and 7 are not in Logic. And that's very fine by me.
Looks like Louis was being nice to you.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. So, since we are here, the second thing we'll be doing is going here at the Merlot's shop. In the Merlot's shop, there are a few items we can get, which are not in Logic, but there are also 6 that are in Logic, that are rewards for trading star pieces. And here we can see letters that could be in Logic for 10 and 30 shards, and there is a nice badge that could be useful. And here we can see the other items that we could get trading. Nothing seems to be very useful, we just grab that and we'll be on our way and expecting we don't really get letters from there to go further in the seed.
It seems unlikely that those letters are going to be required logically, as you need 3 letters to unlock 1 additional check somewhere in chapter 2.
Yeah.
Another thing that's worth pointing out is right there after he was done looking at the shop, he used a randomizer-specific key item called the Homeward Shroom. The Homeward Shroom is a soft lock prevention measure, but it's also used heavily in routing. Anytime you use the Homeward Shroom, it takes you back to your starting point for the seed. So on all these race seeds, you start in that pipe in Toadtown, which means every time you use the Homeward Shroom, you can immediately warp back to the central location and start the next leg of checks that you're going to do.
Yeah, a few things we can notice already as well. We found an item pouch, which is not an item that is in the original game. It gives us 2 more space in our inventory to grab items. Other things we can notice, please, thank you. Mario is pretty fast. Usually we're only walk like this and the spin is pretty much slower, but in the randomizer we have an option which is always available, which is speedy spin always on, and that gives us, well, the badge speedy spin always active.
So if you're not familiar with Paper Mario normally,
go ahead.
It's a role-playing game. So Mario has 3 different stats that you can improve during level ups. You can get more health, more flower points to do attacks, or more badge points because the badges are items that allow Mario to have different abilities equipped. And one of those badges is a badge called Speedy Spin, which allows you to move quickly. We have a quality of life upgrade that just allows you to use Speedy Spin all the time without needing to burn badge points on it.
So one thing about Speedy Spin is, if any of you are familiar with the typical speedruns of this game, is acquiring Speedy Spin as soon as possible tends to be one of the most important parts of the speedrun. So people are routing for coins so you can purchase it, and then resetting to get the badge in the badge shop.
Ooh, boots!
Yeah, and Toy Train. And one of the letters that could have been in logic. That and lyrics. Okay. Okay, go.
I was going to say the boot upgrade will, one, increases the damage of Mario's jump attacks. So we haven't seen any battles yet, but it will allow you to get through your battles much quicker, as well as unlocks a couple of places in the game that you can go. So we now have access in the sewers of Toad Town to another area. And thirdly, allows us to access panels. So panels guarantee to give us a star piece. If you recall the shop that we visited at the beginning, we determined that star pieces aren't relevant this seed, but acquiring the super boots typically allows you to get access to a lot more star pieces and would allow you to start unlocking those items in Merlot's shop.
Two other things worth noting there. DRAK stopped to pick up a life shroom. Life shrooms are essentially a safety measure in this game. Whenever you drop to 0 health in battle, a life shroom in your inventory will get used and take you back to 10 health. Which can be very helpful, especially since we're going to be under-leveled for basically every boss fight. So a lot of times you may have to do some creative routing to intentionally die on a turn to come back and finish the fight on another turn.
Okay, so here...
Another thing worth noting about the boots, you talked about Toad Town tunnels. Something that makes the routing for this interesting is most of the chapters in this game have two methods of entry. There's the intended way that the game has you go through in the story, and then there's also a shortcut way, which you're not supposed to be able to access until after you've completed the chapter most of the time. But since the randomizer gives you items out of order, it will sometimes give you ways to get to the shortcut version instead of the story way to get to a chapter, allowing for more interesting routing overall.
Yep, so speaking of routing, so technically 7 is not in logic here, but we technically got a way already to get there because of this. We got the hard key, which allows us to enter this house, which usually only get maybe just before chapter 7 actually.
I think, and even if 7 is in logic, the odd key isn't necessarily required because, again, like Brad was just saying, there's typically two ways of entry. Using the odd key plus Bombette to go through the tunnels in this direction is one way to get through. And another way would be if you have Sushi and Bombette.
Yeah, and boots. You'll need boots to do that route as well. So
Yep.
Correct.
So here we quickly
there's a
taking
lot of option routing.
Yeah, we're quickly taking a trip in here to have this check. We'll come back a bit later. This road gave us actually access to chapter 5. Usually you go from the left side of Toadstown. We will be visiting that about in 2 minutes. And there's the shortcut that Brett mentioned earlier that we can go from the sewers. We have to fight a little boss before that, but we pretty much got enough power to deal with it, so we'll deal with the blooper and reach chapter 5. But
yeah,
first,
early game routing typically consists of the same 3 loops. There's a loop to go check what chapters you're doing and the Merlot shop. There's a loop to go check Goomba Village in the prologue, and then there's a loop to collect all of the things that you can inside of Toad Town before venturing into one of the story chapters.
Okay, so here I took like, I mean, it was intended in the original game. The artifact is supposedly a chapter 2 item. You can call with the guy I talked to, Colorado, in the desert. But we can speak to him as well in front of the whale if you didn't enter chapter 5. So here I was able to get the reward for that item way before the intended way.
Everybody in my community loves blooper fights because they're almost always required in a seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so about blooper is there are 3 iterations of blooper in this game. You have our standard blooper, which is what DRAK is currently fighting, and then you have electro blooper and super blooper. So there are 3 different locations for bloopers, and which blooper you fight isn't tied to a specific location. It's actually just tied to how many bloopers you fought thus far. So we're guaranteed here to fight the 30 HP regular blooper, but this is typically intended to be like the 3rd blooper that you would fight in vanilla Paper Mario.
Yep.
This blooper is also kind of a scary fight because you usually have to do it with not a whole lot of attack upgrades. Thankfully, DRAK got the boots because the blooper is a flying enemy. So in this game, flying enemies can only be hit by jump attacks and thrown items. So whether that's throwing your hammer or using an actual item, that's all you can use to hit, as well as you need to have partners that can do aerial attacking. So he's using Goombario, who currently can do a jumping attack. And he cleared that fight easily, but you can see he's down to 2 health left. So that blooper can sometimes get you pretty close to running out of health just because you don't have a whole lot of combat ability to do 30 damage in 2 or 3 turns.
Yep. One thing you could notice in this fight as well, we could see bloopers HP. In the original game, you can't see them unless you use Goombario's first ability, which is Tattle, which will give you a description of the enemy, and then will show you the HP bar permanently. But there is another option set for the randomizer that shows us every HP bar from the enemies.
We have a comment from chat saying we love Goombario coming from Louis.
Hey, Louis.
And I actually wanted to bring up that typically in a randomizer, Goombario is thought to be the least helpful partner because Goombario doesn't do anything for you in the overworld once you're an experienced runner, right? So Goombario's ability in the overworld is to give you hints or to, not hints, but to tell you about certain characters or certain areas. And that doesn't do anything for us. But turns out that the combat was actually really helpful here because Goombario has the ability to attack flying enemies, and the only partner we had, Bombette, cannot.
Yeah. Bombette is a very powerful partner when upgraded. She's able to deal multiple damage, damage on multiple enemies when upgraded once on the ground and when upgraded twice, like every enemy on the screen. And that's, if we don't count defense, the partner who can deal the most damage in AoE. And shit. So here as well, you can see the enemies got way lower HP than usual. The difficulty from every chapter is randomized as well. And here, the scaling for this chapter seems to be the lowest, which is 1. So that will be an easy chapter to clear.
So there are 2 different types of checks you might encounter when you're doing this randomizer. Some checks only happen once, and some checks are what are known as replenishing. So it may be that it's possible to go back to a check and get the same item over and over. It's important to know because sometimes there are key items you might need to grab, like the blueberry, multiple times, or if a replenishing check drops something like those life shrooms that can give you some safety from game overs, it's good to keep track of those things so that way you can try and build up your inventory without having to burn through money, because sometimes money routing can be tight, especially if you have to buy key items.
I guess additionally to the whole replenishable items, there are certain items like the cake mix or the berries that in a vanilla game you would need to have access to multiple of them to make sure that you could actually get through that progression. So if we just found a singular cake mix, we would know that logically we're not supposed to be able to pass the check that requires a cake mix compared to if we had a replenishable cake mix check. So you can still pass that check, of course, with just one, but the difference is whether the logic is telling you that this should be an accessible area to you as a player right now.
By the way, thanks for telling about the cake mix because I was about to forget.
I've been stung so many times by walking up to Gourmet Guy with a cake mix instead of a cake and realizing that I'm going to have to quickly backtrack out of Chapter 4 to fix that.
Yeah, so as you can see, we found Bo on the beach in Chapter 5, and that's the partner we need to reach Chapter 4. There is technically another way to enter Chapter 4, which is allowed with these settings, which is called Early Toy Box. We don't need actually anything to enter this chapter. It's like an out-of-bound glitch that allows us to reach Chapter 4, I mean early, as the name implies. So here doesn't seem to be...
So these Shy Guys are also replenishing checks. So another kind of thing that you just need to be aware of is where are places where I might have to think about, does this check replenish if I leave the room? I guess while we're in a battle here, we can talk about the fact that while Mario's leveling up is still vanilla like it would be in the regular game, when it comes to use of moves, these settings have randomized values for the FP. So you may find that attacks that normally should be relatively cheap to use might be very expensive, and vice versa. So sometimes you might get things like Mega Quake, Mega Jump, Mega Smash, costing 1 or 2 FP. And if you are lucky enough to get something like that, that's basically going to be your battle strategy for the entire chapter, because you are going to output far more damage for a lower FP price than you should be able to.
Yeah, one thing we already equipped when we found it was FP+. FP+ gives us 5 more FP, which is the equivalent of 1 level up. But we only equipped it for the price of 1 badge point, which is 1 BP. And that's usually 3 in the original game. So that's a very good deal here. So every time we can find badges that are low cost for HP FP, we will try to equip them because it's cheaper than having to get a full level. Nothing here.
Well, just expanding on that a little bit, we talked about the randomized peak costs, but also all the badges have fully random costs, so you can get some that cost cheaper in terms of the number of badge points, as well as your partner's abilities, right? So all of our FP costs and badge point costs are totally randomized, so it really encourages you to pick up some of the attacks or badges that you would consider to be less good in the vanilla Paper Mario games because they might be very cheap in the randomizer.
Something else that's different about these settings that they haven't used in some of the league settings for the past couple of times is the partners used to be... The partner was a shuffled item, and both of their upgrades to increase their damage and teach them a new move were into the item pool. That is not in these settings, so all of the partner upgrade blocks are in their normal vanilla locations, which is giving us the chance to pick and choose which partners to try and level up, which is helping to speed up the combat because you can intentionally pick partners that you either have or know will be in logic to make sure that they are strong enough to help with the battles that you're going to have in the seed.
So on that point, DRAK said earlier about how Bombette is a very powerful partner, and we've already acquired Bombette. So I would be surprised if when we encounter those upgrade blocks, DRAK doesn't go for the upgrade on Bombette early.
Oh yeah, I will be, definitely.
Yeah. I think there's maybe a scenario where you want to upgrade Watt first if you were trying to clear this chapter right now, but...
I mean, we first have to find Watt, which is the main problem.
Right.
we know that what is in logic because chapter 4 is in logic. But we don't know when we will be able to find her. It could be very early or even be the last item we find in the seed.
Right, so specifically for Chapter 4, the required items to clear, to access the 4 boss, which would give you a Chapter 4 clear, is you need the 2 partners, Bombette and Watt. You also logically need Bo to enter the toy box, although we talked about the glitch that we're allowed to do to skip needing Bo. And then you need the toy train and cake. So currently we're only missing Watt to fully complete Chapter 4. So if DRAK finds Watt somewhere in the toy box, then he could realistically fully clear this area and not have to come back here later.
Yeah.
Chapter clears are important in these settings because there is a store in Toad Town that gets new inventory after you complete chapters. So it is possible that progression for the seed may be locked behind clearing 1 or 2 of the chapters.
Well, actually, with these settings, they won't. This is set to 0, so...
Oh, is it 0, Ralph? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, only the first set of items is in logic.
Okay, I thought it was at least 1 set. My apologies.
No,
but it's
no
a good
problem.
thing to know when you're doing the randomizer, because that's an easy check to overlook since that inventory increases as the seed goes on.
Yeah, and for each chapter you can complete, you get 3 more checks in this shop. So depending on the settings, that's something you have to be aware of.
Right, and then, aside from just that, it's the time you would have to spend backtracking into the chapter counts as well. Right, so being able to fully clear this, beat the boss, you know you don't need to come back here unless maybe there is a one-off check that you missed, because what's required to beat the game is just the 4 chapter clears, and then you have to beat the final boss gauntlet. So, unless you're missing an item check when you come through here,
Oh,
hello Wacky, then there's no need to come back until you've kind of exhausted all other resources, if you even skipped any checks. So I guess one thing we haven't talked that much about, it might be implied, is that there are definitely checks that are much slower than others.
oh yeah.
Right? So, for example, we have Big Lantern Ghost in Chapter 4, which is a mini-boss fight that gives you 1 singular check. So a lot of runners will opt to skip these slow checks until they are running low on checks to complete the seed, because the amount of time investment to get that check is just not worth it.
Yeah, the Random Ghost is something you can usually call an HP bag. He's not very strong, but he's got way too much HP, even on lower scale. So you try to avoid him as much as possible.
I know I've been burned several times before because I skipped that check though, and then it ends up having my last required item or something like that. But it is definitely one of those things you don't want to do early in the seed when you don't have very much power, or if you know that you don't need to do it. Louis in chat says this is a baby seed. Who rolled it?
Yeah, thanks for that, Louis.
This is looking like a Rigby seed.
Oh no, Rigby seed would be a blue key seed, so thanks. 7 is not in logic.
Fair enough. I think at the end of last season, was it, one of our top runners, Rigby, was rolling a bunch of practice seeds and just continued to roll very fast and easy seeds.
Yeah.
And being a good player, was getting excellent times over and over.
Yeah, we are actually doing qualifier seeds to define the 8 player who will be competing in the upcoming tournament, which will be streamed on this channel. And actually, Rigby is in first place. But that shouldn't last. I'm at second, and I'm planning to get the first place.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close behind in terms of average time, correct? It's
I'm the closest, but I wouldn't say I'm that close.
I, our first, I guess, the first seed that we did
Oh, Cooper.
was a very, I would say it was a very punishing seed. If you made any routing changes from kind of the way that Rigby did, you were losing a lot of time.
Yeah. So here we just found an upgrade block. So we could upgrade Bombette to the super level. That gives us a new power on Bombette, which is a very good power up because that's very cheap and that's an attack that attacks every grounded enemies.
Yeah, so that will probably be the battle strat carry for a while because area of attack is the best you can hope for when you're trying to build a strategy. So that way you can try and hit all of the enemies in the battle at once to try and shorten the amount of time. You might have noticed there in Toy Box, DRAK was running circles around that flame guy enemy because one of the slowest things you can do is just get into unnecessary combat because the animation of going into combat, of doing running away, and then of needing to get out of the combat screen just burns through time. So the more combat you can avoid, the better off you're going to be. And if you have to be in combat, you want it to try and be as few turns as possible.
So we just saw Drac do a badge re-equip. He was going through the badge menu, and if I saw correctly, he currently has a 1 BP Flower Plus equipped, which gives him plus
Yes.
5 FP, as well as he equipped the badge Last Stand, which is considered, a lot of people would consider it to be one of the strongest badges. Not because it gives you damage, but because if you are in danger, which being in danger is defined by Mario having 5 HP or less, then it halves your damage taken.
Yeah, rounded
Rounded
down.
Rounded down.
And that's
It
very
kind of breaks it.
One thing you've probably noticed as well is every time Drac gets hit, there's a little nice exclamation point above his head, and that means that he blocked the attack correctly, which subtracts 1 damage. So one of the key notes about Last Stand is it subtracts the 1 damage after it's halved and rounded down. So if an enemy was supposed to deal 3 damage, it would be halved, rounded down to 1, and then -1 for the block. So you would essentially be taking no damage. So equipping Last Stand made this fight very safe, and will probably open up a lot of options in the late game if he wants to go for a low HP strategy.
Yeah. So
Electro Blooper is also probably the easiest of the bloopers because it wastes a turn charging up its electric attack that can be diffused by any non-contact attack. So items or things like Lackluster's Spiny Throw there just cancel the attack, causing it to burn through 1 turn every roughly 3.
yeah, we could have gone in this fight with Bow, which deals 4 damage instead of 3 from Lucky. But we wouldn't be able to cancel the electricity from Brooper unless we use an item. And if you attack Brooper with a contact move, as said, I think that was Fish, well, you take damage. If it's Mario, it's just 1 damage, it's not a big deal. But if it's the partner, it takes 1 damage. And the problem is partners, they don't have HP, they just lose turn by the amount of damage they take. So basically, not only you lose your turn, but you lose your next turn because you took 1 damage. So you try to avoid that as much as possible.
Right, so the Electro Blooper fight that was just fought was to unlock what we would call left side sewers, which gives us access to these 3 pipes that you just saw, as well as an area over here on the left with some checks. So typically this is a shortcut to get access back to the prologue and to chapter 1 and chapter 2. But DRAK is using it to get access to chapter 2 in general, because otherwise to get fully over into chapter 2, you need both Bombat and Paracarry. So going this direction, he can now check everything, or not everything, but can get to chapter 2 and start doing a lot more checks.
Yeah, he can check it in reverse, which helps to speed up the process because he doesn't need all of the partners.
Yeah, if you go in Chapter 2 the intended way, you usually need to use Paracarry, which is this flying turtle. Sadly, we don't have him yet, so we can only reach the early checks in Chapter 2, which is the Mount Rugged. But as for the desert, we shouldn't be able to. But if we go through the sewers, we actually get sent in Dry Outpost, which is the end of Chapter 2. And if you go from this way, you can actually reach Rugged as well. So it's much better when you can to get in Chapter 2 from the sewers, from here. So here we're bringing this little mouse to his shop. As much as the original game, if you buy the dried shroom and the hammer, that will unlock the access to Mustafa, I think it was called.
I believe it's Mustafa. Yes.
And Mustafa gives us another check.
Well, and technically doing this, you get the one check of Mustafa, and then there's also a check over there in the area that's unlocked.
Yeah, on the roof.
So doing this progression gives us access to 2 checks. And logically, I believe you need a lemon to, for logic to require you to get over here. But I think a lot of players, because we know the pattern, we don't need the lemon, just opt to do these checks because it's not particularly slow.
Ooh.
And that is a good badge we just got, Mega Jump.
Yeah, Mega Jump is useful in 2 ways. First, you jump only once on the enemies, so it's a time saver. And 2, that's usually the jumping badge that gives the most power.
Right, so Mega Jump it combines your 2 jumps into 1 and then adds 4 damage to the base amount. The way the attack scaling and bonus damage scales is, I think, a little bit more complicated. We'd have to explain the boot upgrades power addition, but you can basically just think of it as plus 4 damage.
Yeah.
So DRAK just upgraded Watt despite not having Watt yet, because DRAK knows that Watt is logically in this seed, and Watt is likely the partner that he will take into fighting Final Bowser, because Watt has piercing damage and can avoid any defense, which is very helpful for the boss rush.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So defense is just, if you don't know, is a very simple minus to the damage that you deal. So if a boss has 1 defense and you should do 2 damage, you instead deal 1 damage. And that's per instance of damage, right?
Yeah.
So if you do jump times 2, which does 2 each, it would take 1 damage 2 times. So having piercing damage is important, especially because Final Bowser has 2 defense.
Yeah, a lot of what makes these 4 chapter clear seeds interesting is there's not a lot of time to get enough power to defeat normal Final Bowser. So Final Bowser has all of the regular stats you would expect for finishing the game, and your average seed is probably going to have Mario showing up at around level 7. So you need to be figuring out how you can deal the 99 damage to Bowser fast enough and efficiently enough that you can finish the seed without him healing and dragging the battle on, because a lot of the final bosses have the ability to heal, and typically if they start healing, the battle goes on longer than you have the stamina to complete, and you're going to find that it's not possible to win the fight.
Yeah, so here technically there is a trick which is well known, where you can use Lucky Lester, the little guy we found just earlier, to reach this place without using the pole stone. But actually using the pole stone here unlocks a regen block which was on the left of the palace. So sometimes it's better to just bring the pole stone on the stone.
I think especially since the randomizer introduced shortened cutscene mode, I'm not sure if those watching have noticed, but we haven't had a lot of dialogue, right? So talking to NPCs, we don't have to iterate through all of their dialogue to get their checks, and we haven't seen any particularly long cutscenes. It's shortened all of the cutscenes and dialogue, so the seed is much faster. Because these settings probably would have taken an additional 20 minutes alone just because of the length of talking to NPCs and cutscenes.
Shit. Sorry. So here you can see Poki's got 9 HP, which is the highest possible. So that's scale 7, which is usually where you fight Crystal King, the hardest enemies. Here it will only be Pokies. What are the blue spinies? Buzzy beetles and stuff. So it's much easier because they don't have. The attacks are way easier to block and are not that strong. But more importantly, the enemy got way less HP. If you go in chapter 7 and get like scale 7 Duplighost, for example, they got at max 13 HP. Here the max HP enemy was the Poki that only got 9. So we are usually very happy to see early chapters with high scale because it's way easier to get EXP and to kill the enemies. And we just found what, so logically we could finish chapter 4 now.
Yeah, so
if you're just starting out, oh, go ahead, Fish.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, if you're just starting out with the randomizer, I would definitely suggest using a map tracker, specifically if you get chapter 2 here, because there are lots of different checks that can occur in the desert, and depending on the settings, you may or may not have to do them. So eventually you'll start to learn your preferred route for going through the desert, but the desert is a 7x7 grid of maps, and not every single map has a check on it. So a lot of times you will be doing zigzag paths from point to point to try and get the checks most efficiently. But if you are planning on picking this up and starting to learn, using a map-based tracker is the best thing you can do to help you start understanding which rooms typically have the checks.
Yeah, because like out of the 35 rooms that are in the desert, there's probably 10-ish that got checks. So you have to, one, memorize them, or two, have a tracker which got the different rooms and the checks on it. Yeah, sushi.
Sushi.
So
that gives us some.
Yeah, as you could see,
that gives us access to a lot more of chapter 5.
Yeah.
So that might be the next place to go check. Is there are a lot of checks in the jungle of chapter 5 that require you to have sushi.
So this is a little glitch. Normally you're not supposed to be able to get these without paracarry, but when you are riding Lackluster, you fall a little slower and have a bit more control over how you are going down. So if you jump back off that cliff while riding Lackluster, you can actually steer yourself onto that platform and get those checks without paracarry.
Yep. So, well, I guess we won't have to cook any super shrooms. So yeah, earlier in chapter 5, we went in jungle. Why am I hitting this enemy? And we need sushi to get deeper in chapter 5. We need sushi, and even deeper, we need a Jade Raven. We already got that. That's like the little penguin statue. Thanks to that, we can reach a deeper part in jungle, then access Volcano, which is the dungeon for chapter 5.
So the items to clear chapter 5 include the Ultra Hammer,
Okay. Well, to this
Sushi, Jade Raven, and then a way to access 5, which is you either need What to access 5, or you need Super Boots plus Sushi, which you already need Sushi. So looking at the items we have everything we need except for our second hammer upgrade. So if DRAK finds the hammer upgrade while in 5 or even here before going to 5, then he could likely just one clear 5 on this visit and not have to come back.
So here I'm trying to use a little trick, which is a lucky clip, which should bring us like in this wall, as long as it works. No, doesn't work. Here.
So to do this trick, he combines 2 different tricks. There's a lackey clip, which lackey's collision is a little bit weird when you get on him. So if you're on the corner of an object and you get onto lackey, you can clip through certain items that don't have a great collision. And so that puts him inside of that. And then he does a trick called a lackey jump, which while hopping onto or off of Lackluster and changing partners. Ooh, there's Ultra Hammer. So that is a chapter 5 clear. But if you change your partners right at the same time as you jump off Lackey, it can teleport you up onto objects a certain distance above you, which allows him to get that item, which I believe was a dictionary, before we were supposed to be able to get that. So that typically requires you have paracarry to get that check.
And we don't have paracarry yet. So that was the only way to get the dictionary. We could reach the Thunder Rage that was on the right side with Cooper, but we couldn't get the dictionary. Dictionary is not technically an item in logic, but it's a sub-check. Sub-checks can have logical items in them. We just don't know unless we trade those items.
One thing, while there's nothing else being talked about that I don't think was mentioned, we were talking a little while ago about the final gauntlet and how you'd finish the game typically at around chapter 7. So because we only clear 4 chapters in this seed and we're trying to avoid miracle water, that was a required item. So
yep. So good plan.
Yeah.
Good that DRAK picked that up.
So
also that means that paracarry is somewhere in logic since it expected you to get that check.
Yes. But since we got that check very early, we may not even find paracarry before being in go mode now.
Right. But these settings have a modifier for EXP, is kind of what I wanted to get to, is that you get 50% bonus experience, which helps you kind of get to be a little bit stronger for the final gauntlet. Compared to if we were just doing 1 times EXP, we might be finishing the seed at level 4 or sometimes even level 2 or 3, which would be very difficult to have enough BP and FP to deal with the final enemies.
Yep. And yeah, since the seeds are pretty short and we don't check every chapter, the XP may sometimes be very rare. Actually, I can go from this side. And yeah, so the 1x5 multiplier is very useful in these seeds. That's not a good one.
A lot of times you are changing what you're planning on doing based on the things that you find. Like there's no guarantee you're always going to do the same level up strategy every time, because sometimes the badges that you think might be the most helpful are going to be too unaffordable. So a lot of times you're going to be looking for badges that help to increase Mario's damage output, such as Power Plus, All or Nothing, or P up, D down. But it's possible that those badges could be something like 8 badge points to wear, which isn't exactly likely to do in a 4-chapter clear seed. You might be able to get 1 of them, but you're probably not going to be wearing 2 or 3 of them if the cost is that high. So you have to be adapting to what you find and how expensive it is to both equip and use.
Yeah, there are a few strats that are usually used to fight Chapter 8 bosses, Bowser, for example. One is to get in danger mode, because in danger mode, you've got a few badges that are useful in that mode. The first one is last 10, as we said earlier. It reduces your damage taken by half. And there is another item which is probably as much useful, which is Power Rush. While in danger mode, you get +2 damage. So for each jump, that's basically +4 damage. There is another strat, which is most usually done when you don't have the luxury to equip Last 10 and Power Rush, or just if you don't find those badges, which is just go for 20 HP, just for some survivability, and go for the maximum damage you can output. So the Mega Jump badge we had earlier gives us +4 damage. So for now we don't have Power Rush, so we highly expect that Mega Jump to be cheap in FP and BP. We could check it at any moment. We'll do that in a few when we will be fighting Lava Piranha, which will be the boss for this chapter.
So, DRAK, do you do a hybrid of rescuing the baby Yoshis?
I'd prefer not.
Okay, because you rescued the blue one there, and I was like, I thought he would just skip all of the Yoshis entirely, so...
Yeah, I usually just rescue this one, because just in case we have to save them later on, if we don't find all the required items. This one is pretty far from every other check you have in this chapter. And there was one check below this Yoshi, so it's not that much time loss. But if we have to save every Yoshi, that's a huge time gain.
Yeah, just like how Big Lantern Ghost was a big time spend for not a lot of checks in Chapter 4, rescuing the baby Yoshis is similar in that I think it only gives you 2 additional checks.
Actually, it gives you at least one immediately.
Yeah.
Which is the one you get from the Yoshi Chief. And after, and only after clearing Chapter 5, there is one Yoshi. No. There is the Yoshi that will give you a check if you feed him. Yeah, and one more check if you have the what's it
Volcano
called? The vase, the volcano vase, which is this item that I'm highlighting.
Okay, I forgot about the volcano vase. So yeah, it gives you 3 checks, but it is one of the longest side quest type things to do in the game just to get a few more checks.
Well, and again, it's only potentially 3 checks. It's the 1 immediate check, 1 check after clearing 5, and then the 3rd check you need to clear 5 and need the vase, which we do not have.
Yeah.
So I doubt that Louis would provide a seed where...
You never know.
I know. You never know.
I highly doubt there's anything behind saving the Yoshis, but you never know. As the logic...
Well, and especially since there's overworld coins shuffled into these settings, the Season 5 settings that didn't have overworld coins meant we were doing a lot of those side quest type checks, but with the ability to just find an item lying where a coin is supposed to be, that certainly helps to reduce the likelihood of needing to do things like Big Lantern Ghost or rescuing Yoshis.
Yeah. And as for now, I mean, 5 can be cleared, so there is potential to be something behind the Yoshi that you must feed, and the Yoshi Chief. Not the volcano base yet, because we didn't found it. So there is potentially 2 checks that we are avoiding now.
Yeah, so when running these types of seeds, that's just something you need to keep in the back of your mind. If you're not going to go for these checks, is kind of having a mental list of the things that you skipped, right? So we've skipped the Yoshis, and we've skipped Big Lantern Ghost. So those are some things that if we're getting down to the end of the seed and don't have any other checks left, that we need to backtrack to complete.
I'll go evolve bow, so we'll have Ultra Bow and we'll be done with our grades. We already have no trouble. Okay, never mind. I forgot to mark her. So Bo, which was the last partner we upgraded, is only a single target partner. It can only deal damage to one enemy, but that's the partner who can deal the most damage on one enemy. She's got an attack, the basic attack that can deal 6, and her last attack, which is Fan Smack, can deal 2 damage times 5 times, which is basically 10 damage, and that's way higher than every other partner we currently have. The maximum damage we should be able to deal with another partner is Bombette. Every bomb attacks she's got. Oh, hey, Paracary. Every bomb attack she's got is 7 damage. There is technically one other partner that can deal a huge amount of damage, but that's Sushi's Tidal Wave. Sushi's Tidal Wave is like a fast input sequence. You've got like 5 or 6 seconds to deal some inputs that are shown on the screen, and every time you do wrong input, you lose like half a second. And when you're doing that you'll notice that's pretty fast, and you usually never deal higher than 7.
Theoretically, a task could probably get above 7 or maybe even up to 10, but a human never.
Yeah, I haven't even dealt 8 once. I'm not even sure I can do that.
Right. I think I've capped out at 7 personally.
Yeah.
And
I'm terrible at tidal wave, so I'm happy if I can get 5 most of the time.
I think I'm averaging 5. So right here, it's kind of convenient that we just picked up Paracarry. In the previous room, you probably saw, or in this room earlier, you probably saw a bunch of red blocks. And the intended way to get through this room is to push that blue block all the way to the left, hammer all the blocks, I actually don't know the name of that enemy, but let that roll down and break the wall.
The big rock?
But yeah, but because of some collision, we can just use Paracarry to kind of clip through the wall, or to clip into the loading zone, and save us a good almost minute.
So
Maybe more
Mega
like
Jump
30
is
seconds.
very bad.
It's a very, very easy trick to pull off. It's probably one of the first ones that you can learn if you're trying to learn this randomizer, because it doesn't take a whole lot of time to set up, and there's no punishment for doing it wrong. You just have to set up and try it again. So it's definitely worth trying to do if you're in Chapter 5 and have Paracarry.
I think I had... where was it? Yeah, that's here.
So the badge options, it seems like the powerful damage dealing badges that we want to look for. So typically like Mega Jump, Power Bounce, and D down jump for late game, not for these bosses. All seems to be pretty expensive. So DRAK equipped Power Bounce, which allows you to bounce on an enemy repeatedly. So it means that you can do not as many jumps as you want, but more than 2 jumps. And each jump deals 1 less damage than the previous one, down to 1 damage minimum. So you can theoretically get a lot more damage out of a Power Bounce. But in this case, we just saw that Mega Bomb cost 5, and that was, as we talked about earlier, the attack that hits all enemies. So DRAK needs to kind of save the FP to Mega Bomb enemies instead of using Power Bounce.
Actually, you probably didn't notice, but there was another badge I equipped.
It also has ice power. Right?
Yeah,
So
and ice...
for this fight,
Shit. So,
for this fight, go ahead and explain.
okay, ice power gives us +2 damage for every attack that you deal on a fire enemy, And Lava Piranha on phase 2, which is bathing in lava, is considered a fire enemy. So usually we only deal 2 with our first jump, but thanks to the ice power, we actually deal 4. And power bounce, so start with 4 and reduce 1 damage for each jump you make, but you can deal like 5, 6, 7 jumps sometimes. So that adds up very quick when compared to the 4 we initially had. Sadly here I missed my action command, so I only dealt 4, which was very bad. But we still managed to deal enough damage because that was a scale 1 enemy, and Bow, which is our best damage dealer for a single target, managed to kill him.
Yeah, and a lot of times when it comes to doing those boss fights, the routing that you pick does expect you to do basically every action command perfectly. Thankfully, with the Chapter 1 scale, there was a little bit of room for a mistake, but a lot of times when you're fighting some of those Chapter 5, 6, or 7 scale bosses, you have to route it out for every single damage point to count to get them to exactly 0, because you very rarely have room for overkill. You are just trying to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
And with that, we've cleared 1 chapter, which you might think this is a 4-chapter seed and it's taken almost an hour to clear that chapter. How is this a fast seed? But if you look at the tracker there, you can see that we're actually not missing that many items left to finish the seed. We need the Pyramid Stone, we need another one of the Magical Seeds, and we need 2 more of the Chapter 2 keys. So really, DRAK is trying to find those things as he proceeds to finish off the chapters that he has access to clear. So these seeds kind of snowball in that the first chapter takes a little bit of time to clear, and then you're usually 10 to 15 minutes to the second one, and then about 5 minutes and 5 minutes to rush back to the bosses to finish the 2 remaining chapters because you're in go mode at that point.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not a super uncommon occurrence that you hit go mode, which, if it wasn't explained, you don't need to pick any more items up. You have everything you need to complete the seed. It's not super uncommon to hit go mode before even clearing a singular chapter.
Yeah, so here my main concern is we don't have the second seed for Chapter 6. Chapter 6 is a very special chapter. All of the other chapters, you can reach them, and the dungeon is like on the far end of the chapter. Chapter 6 is like the dungeon itself. You enter it and you're like in the middle of the dungeon, and there are different paths you can take, and you only need to take one path to access the boss. So that can be a very fast chapter. Sadly here, since we don't have the second seed, we don't really have any way to... we don't have a way to reach Chapter 6, and we are missing a lot of checks. How do I deal with this guy? That's very expensive.
So DRAK is preparing to fight the boss of Chapter 4, and really doesn't have that many great tools currently.
Can't really use power bounce.
Right. So part of the issue is the Chapter 4 boss has 2 defense, in addition to having 3 waves of enemies that you have to fight before you actually fight the boss. So you need some combination of AoE, high single target damage, and damage that isn't repeated attacks, like jump times 2, because the defense is going to really add up.
Yeah. Thanks for us, there is a way to avoid that defense, and that's items. The items have a set amount of damage output. So there are like shooting stars that deal 6, there are snowman bolts that deal 4, thunder rages and thunderbolts that deal 5. And here, thanks to Bombette, we can already deal a good amount of damage on the enemies. Remember, Bombette deals 7, even if General Guy got 2 defense, it will deal 5. And this boss is actually pretty special because there are 4 phases. The first one is just a big amount of Shy Guys that just got 15 HP. The second phase, which is there, are what are them called? Was it the Shy Guy? That was
Still guys?
Steel Guys, yeah. Steel Guys are technically grounded because you can hit them with quakes, but you cannot hit them with hammer or bomb. So you have to hit them with jumps or attacks like the Mega Bomb with Bombette. But I didn't use Mega Bomb because I want to save some FP for later. As you can see already on General Guy, there is like a little ball at the end of his tank. The ball can deal us a big amount of damage if we don't kill it very fast. So we want to keep Mega Bomb and destroy that ball as soon as possible.
Yeah, like I was talking about with the routing out your boss fights, General Guy is also challenging because these phases are distinct from each other. So even if you do overkill, that extra damage doesn't damage the next round of Shy Guys coming in. So you are trying to figure out, again, how to manage the flower point moves that you are using, so that way you still have enough to fight General Guy at the end. Because if you bring out all of your big attacks to take out the Shy Guy squads first, you're going to wind up with the General Guy tank here with its extra defense and no flower points to be able to damage it.
Yeah, I can probably use the items. I could technically use the Ultra Hammer we have. Ultra Hammer is supposedly doing 6 damage, minus 2, because of the General Guy defense. But it's just faster to use items because they do more damage. So the fight will be done faster. And here you can see the power of Last Stand. The scaled 4 boss just deals us no damage. And imagine that on the chapter 8 bosses.
You have a damage dodge equipped as well, correct?
I think so, actually, yes.
Okay, so I guess part of why he's not taking any damage here, like we talked about the Last Stand, which takes your damage in half, rounded down, plus blocking is -1 after that effect. And then damage dodge makes it so you subtract 1 more damage when you do a successful block, which also happens after the halving of damage. So even though that attack, I believe, would default deal 4 damage or so, it's going to be dealing 0, which makes this fight very safe as long as you can hit your blocks.
Yeah.
And you have the right badges set up.
There are a few checks we could go for. In chapter 4, we skipped Lantern Ghost, and there is technically one other check. Actually, there are 2 checks that I forgot, which are in Green Station. I'll go there pretty fast there. The Green Station we reached earlier were like moving blocks. We took the bottom path, which only required bow. There are 2 more checks ahead of that, where we need para-carry, which we recently found in Volcano.
Right, so we didn't get these para-carry checks, and similarly with Mount Rugged, right, we were there much earlier in the seed. There is 1 check that is now available to us because we have para-carry. So technically that dictionary that we found earlier, we logically needed para-carry for, but we were able to do a glitch in order to get it. There's another check that's similar that we require para-carry, but we do not have any glitches, at least that are allowed, for these settings to get us that check without para-carry.
So this was not in... That's a very good badge. That basically gives us 1 more power for every instance of damage. So for jumps, it's just +2. That's one of the badges you absolutely want to find And there are 2 power pluses in the game. Yeah, we got the red berry.
It also didn't have a terrible badge point cost, since it can potentially go as high as 8 BP to wear. So 4 is reasonable.
Yeah. And in the original game, I think it's 6 or 7?
I believe it's 6.
I believe 6.
Yeah, I'm not worried because I thought it was 7 and defense plus was 6. Anyway, that's very expensive. Oh, shoot. So those Koopas attack pretty fast. As you could see, when they got the initiative, you barely got any time to activate your action command. So you try to avoid them as much as possible. Here we're on the winding path. That's a way you can only reach with Paracarry, with Lakiasa, excuse me, and we just found Ultra Boots. So there were a few checks that you probably saw just earlier, which are oh my god, I'm missing everything today.
Yeah, finding Ultra Boots there, it's really lucky, because the way to fully clear Winding Path needs both Ultra Boots and Ultra Hammer to actually check everything logically.
Yeah. This one will be annoying.
And that badge we just saw drop, All or Nothing, is similar to Power Plus. It gives you +1 damage on every instance, but you have to hit the action command. So if you miss that action command, it means you deal 0 damage. So it's still a very good badge, especially if you are experienced with the game and can hit your attack commands.
Yeah, but as you could see, especially for Lava Piranha, there are some enemies that got very weird hitboxes. And Lava Piranha is probably one of them. You don't really want to equip that badge unless you're very confident in your action commands.
It's also worth saying that because you have to pull them off correctly, it does mean that battles go slower because you are always doing the full version of every attack. So even if you only need to do 1 damage to an enemy to finish it off, you're still going to have to do a full hammer swing or full 2 rounds of jumps. Otherwise, you will do no damage to them.
Yeah, and that can be a big time waste and sometimes even your life, because if you're not careful, and since we are doing races versus fast opponents, well, sometimes you want to just go fast, and so you want to not do action commands on purpose to do fast attacks. And if you forgot that you have, oh, here's the second seed, so
the seed.
That was required, and Dolly. So yeah, sometimes you want to just do not do the action command, so you can just be faster. And if you forget that when you're like in Final Bowser or stuff like that, I think that's just an upgrade block on the way, so we don't need to get there.
It's a partner block, so you don't need to go check it.
So yeah, you have to be very careful when you're using. I already checked that. When you're using All or Nothing.
And I guess that's one of the harder skills, I think, for running this game. Isn't learning like the tricks and movement, but understanding when to do a rebadge. So like when you should go into your inventory and change your badges, which badges you should use, when you should change them, because there's the situation of always using optimal badges, which you would think, oh, I always want to have the right badges, but you're always going to lose time when you're going into your inventory and changing your badges around. So some of it is, what badges do I currently have equipped, remembering what you have on. Is this going to kind of be sufficient for the current fight? Do I need to change my loadout? Those are all kind of soft skills that you don't think about too much when running seeds.
Yeah, when you're a beginner, you usually got time to think about that. You just usually put every badge you can put, because that will be of some use at some point. When you're running versus other players, especially in tournaments and stuff like that, you're almost constantly thinking of what's the best badge I can equip for let's say the next boss got no damage, but it's got lots of HP. So, for example, I've got Power Bounce, which deals a lot of damage, -1 for each jump, but we've got lots of jumps. And we've got a Power Plus, we got All or Nothing, we got stuff like that. So that's probably what I will be using for Off and Puff.
So DRAK also just picked up the Pyramid Stone. So once you kind of get to this part of the seed, you're probably thinking about what items do you have left for Go mode, and we really only need to get 2 more of the Ruins keys. You see 1 out of 4. You technically only need 3 Ruins keys in order to beat Chapter 2, even though you logically need 4 to beat Chapter 2.
Yeah, that's specific to Chapter 2. You only need 3 keys. The 4th only allows you to get another check, but the boss room is actually after the 3rd. So they are still technically the 4 runes key in logic that you can found, but you only need 3. I mean, most of the time, because sometimes the randomizer just wants you to find the 4, because they will put you a progressive item behind the last key. Okay, so the lucky 2 have...
DRAK, in a situation like this, do you typically go for the boss, or do you start working on checks?
Actually, I would like to go for the boss, because there is one check that's right before the boss. Oh, fan smack is bad. The problem with this boss, especially, is when you deal damage to this boss. Oh my god, that will be a pain. When you deal damage to this boss, for every damage you put in him, he will split into little buffs. I think I'll go with that.
You are pretty close to a level up, by the way.
Yeah, no, actually, I'll play safe. So yeah, for every damage you put, he will invoke a little one. And for every, I think it's odd turn, yeah, turn 1, 3, and etc. It's got an ability that swallow every little enemy and regen as much damage as you did. So you absolutely want to kill those little guys as soon as possible. So we've got, what am I doing? We've got 1 shooting star, and that's about it. So we will try to kill this guy pretty fast, and if we don't, there is another technique we can use, which is dying. Yeah, that can sound pretty odd, but actually this boss got multiple attacks, and when he spawn the little guys attacks first, and then Off and Puff attacks second. And if you die from the little ones, the boss will not attack this turn. So you can skip a whole attack.
Right,
Yeah.
and one of his attacks is that healing that he absorbs. So you can prevent him from healing completely if you let his little clouds kill you.
You can also throw off his cycle a little bit if you use a repel gel or have Bo hide you on the first turn, because if there aren't any little enemies for him to suck back up to regain his health, he gets a little thrown off of the normal pattern that he uses. So if he's a low enough chapter scaling, you can usually try and take him out before he can use the healing move on the next cycle.
Okay, so here I intentionally wasted a turn, because on the first turn, the Off and Puff will heal the amount of damage you've dealt to him. But if you skip the turn, since he's got no little guys, he will just do a very basic attack, as we could see.
One other thing that's worth noting about this boss, if you're just getting started with playing this randomizer, this boss does have a desperation move when his health is low enough that there's no warning turn, unlike a lot of other bosses where they let you know that there's a strong attack coming the turn before. So a lot of times you'll think that you'll have this boss on the ropes with less than 5 health to go, and then he will do his strongest attack and wipe you out. So you want to try to keep him somewhat high in health and knock him out with a big hit at the end rather than trying to chip away, because that desperation move can really hurt you.
Okay. Okay, he should heal this time, but he will only be able to regen 4 HP. And now we have to calc. I could technically use Ripple Gel, and that's probably what I will do, or do this. I actually first do the Fan Smack. Fan Smack is the one attack I mentioned earlier, where bow deals 10 damage, which is the most damage you can deal on somebody as a single target for the partners. And then I can use this item we just got, which gives back the FP we just used. So we will be able to do another Fan Smack on this turn. Actually, I've got Ripple Gels. I'll probably use one. So Ripple Gel is a very specific item and a very good one in the rando that just gives you immunity to every attack. That's a very, very good item. And you want to abuse that.
Right, and that immunity lasts 2 turns. So it lasts the turn that you use it as well as the following turn. So you basically get, so like this turn he gets a free attack without having to worry about.
Let's show that. For every chapter, excuse me, I got you. For every chapter you clear, you get a new power. And when you clear the first chapter, there is this power called Refresh, that gives you back 5 HP and 5 FP. And thanks to that, I just got enough FP to do another Fan Smack and kill the boss.
Yeah, and that gets you completely clear of that desperation range, because if you didn't do the full 10, if you only knocked him down 9 to 1, it would have been that strong attack, and that would have been a real pain to deal with. He had the Life Shroom, so he would have been able to come back, but if you don't have to waste the Life Shroom, don't waste the Life Shroom.
Yeah. Depending on the mode you are using, like if you're just going for a lot of HP, or if you're going for danger mode, you don't want the same items. If you're high on HP, you want to keep Life Shrooms. If you are very low on HP and using danger mode, you want to keep your Ripple Gels. Because Final Bowser is very specific, and Hallway Bowser, which is the same Bowser but a fight before with way less HP and different attacks. Bowser is very specific because he will heal depending on the amount of health you have and he currently has. Let's say you've got 20 HP. If you are fighting Final Bowser and you are at, let's say, 10 HP, he will only heal if he is at 24 HP or lower. So you can bring him to 25 and like waste 5 turns, he will never heal. But if you only have 5 HP, well, that's a big problem on Final Bowser. He will heal like mostly every time. If you are at 4 HP, he will heal already at 74, I think. And then 20 less HP for each damage to take. So at 2 damage, he will heal at 14. And you need to calculate a lot more when you are in danger mode. It's usually not a strat that's recommended for beginners because, well, it's very hard to navigate around. So here, we don't have a Yellow Berry. And Yellow Berry is usually required to get through this path. But we can just do that. And with Lucky...
There are 10 checks behind the Yellowberry Gate, so it's a good skip to know.
Oh, and there's Power Rush. And I just leveled up an HP one.
I know, I was going to mention that we had not found Power Rush yet, which is typically part of the package that you need if you want to go for a low HP build. You need Power Rush and Last Stand, which is my assumption as to why DRAK decided to level up HP, is probably going for a 20 HP strat on Final Bowser. And then, of course, we just find Power Rush. That's always how it goes.
That is always how it goes.
Yeah. So technically, I could still go back in danger mode, but I will need 2 more levels. There is a guy in Toadstown. Okay. So there is a guy in Toadstown that allows you to drop 2 levels and gain 2 levels in other stats. So let's say you drop 1 level in HP and you drop 1 level in FP, and you get 2 levels in BP. So because you started at 10 HP, oh yeah, by the way, this one got no hitbox from the right. If you go for, let's say, the start at 10 HP, it's like a ghost level up in HP. You can always get back to 5 HP, which is very dangerous if you don't have Last Stand. So again, not recommended for beginners. But for FP, you need to level it. You need to level it up, or else you can't use this stuff. And sadly, because we needed some BP, we do not have yet any level up in FP. So I cannot use that guy. Oh, no. Ah.
DRAK found another one of the ruins keys, so at this point he is looking for just 1 more to be able to get into go mode and finish the seed.
Yeah. So there are still a few checks left in here, in this path, and we are highly hoping that the key is here. I could technically fight the moles, which I don't want because it's like 4 enemies you need to deal with, only to get 1 check.
Yep, moles is like Baby Yoshi's in Big Lantern Ghost. A lot of time, not a lot of check.
Yeah.
And similar to this, what he's doing now is this is all for 1 singular check where you fight Spike, who is lackluster. This is the vanilla way that you get your partner. This is all just for that 1 check, but this is a little bit faster than doing 4 fights for moles or saving all the Yoshis. But this is
There's still also a few checks inside of ruins that it could potentially be, but that's a big gamble to head to the chapter and hope you can find the check you need there.
Yeah.
Right, and there's still also a couple of things in Toad Town to do now that we've found some items or elsewhere, because there's items that are turn-ins that you just get an item, you turn it in, you get 1 check. So you can see in the inventory, DRAK has Calculator and Melody, which are both turn-ins in Toad Town that give him 1 check. So those are things that he's probably going to do after Chapter 6, unless he finds the ruins key here.
The other thing we're thinking about when it comes to Flower Fields checks is Flower Fields is located basically inside of Toad Town. It's very easy to get back to here and get to basically any of those checks almost immediately. So if DRAK wanted to go look other places, at least it would not take a long time to get back to Flower Fields, as opposed to some of the chapters where it will take 3 to 5 minutes just to get to some of the farthest checks if you leave the chapter and have to go back to them.
Yeah, here we are just dealing with Spike, because, well, that was at the end of the road where there were checks right before. And we don't really want to get back there just for 1 check if we don't find the last key anywhere else. Yeah, that was a bad call maybe. So here we will just home mushroom, and as mentioned, fish. There are 2 checks we can check here in Toadstown, which are the calculator and the melody. And there is another fast one, which is the dolly. We can reach the prologue from the sewers, because we found the blooper early on. And here's another thing we added in the randomizer. You can just drop items whenever you want. That's not in the original game. So when you've got useless items like this jar that gives you absolutely random stuff, that can be a poison shroom, that can be an ultra shroom, depending on your luck. You don't really want to try your luck on some specific fights which are harder than expected. If you get poisoned for no reason, well... Yeah, so I'll check Dolly and I'll probably go in chapter 2 expecting to find something behind.
You also have, not the backseat, there's, in chapter 2, Bubble.
Yeah.
Also, Dolly is one of the weirdest one-for-one checks because there's no confirmation box. You just give it right away. Almost every other time when you're turning in an item, there's a little prompt for what item you want to give the character. So it's important to remember that you're going to need to agree to give them an item and not just mash the B button to try and speed through the text, or you might accidentally open the dialogue box and then say, no, I won't give you the item, which means that then they'll give you a text box saying, why won't you give me the item that you have for me? And you have to repeat the process. So it's a little thing, but if you make that mistake multiple times in a run, it'll start to add up to a big time loss.
Especially there is one NPC in the Toadstown, which is Tasty, the cook. She's got multiple dialogue boxes. One when you first encounter her, in the randomizer at least, you will give her, it's like the recipe book, I think?
Cookbook?
Yeah. And there is one other textbook for the frying pan, which is an item you find in logic or not, that gives you another check. And if you don't remember that you've got those items, I mean, you have to remember that you got the cookbook because it's basic. I mean, you got it from start. But if you just want, like, to cook your item, let's say for your life room, and you're not careful, well, you will just cancel your dialogue and lose lots of times.
Yes. Another thing that's just something to start working on if you're planning on learning how to play Paper Mario Randomizer faster is just learning how to avoid enemies on the overworld. If we're talking about little things that add up over time, starting to learn how specific enemies move on the overworld, how they chase Mario, how they try and intersect him. Like here in the desert, the bandits will try and make an interception path for you, so you want to make sure that they see you and then you move out of their way. Because again, every time you can skip getting into a battle screen at all, you'll go faster. So that's one of those things that's, if you're trying to figure out how to just shave a couple of minutes off your time, learn how to dodge the enemies to not have to get in so many unnecessary battles.
Yeah, you usually prefer to, even if it's a slow way, like for this Pokey, just run around and stuff, you'll probably lose like 2 or 3 seconds, but as long as he encounters you, you will lose at least 10 seconds. Because there is the animation where you enter the fight, the animation for running away, and then Mario is like stunned for 1 or 2 seconds, so that adds up very quickly.
And that is assuming that you run away.
Right, I was going to say that assumes that you're good at mashing, because you have to mash. There's the
There's go mode.
If you're no good at mashing, and especially if you're trying to run from high level enemies, sometimes you will fail to run away.
Here's the fourth one.
So there's the 4th Ruins key, right? Like we said that you logically require 4 Ruins keys. We don't need to pick it up because we can just go straight to the boss room with 3.
I'll quickly take a fight because I'm very underleveled and, well...
So is this going to be a Chapter 7 Toot and Koopa?
Yeah, that, and we don't have much power. The badges are very costly. We want some we want some ways to deal with Chapter 8, and the badges are not the best in this seed, so we want some levels.
Even talking about running away from enemies, similarly, encountering enemy is not always a bad thing, especially if you encounter an enemy, it's fairly high scale, if you can kill it quickly. Experience is...
Nope.
Getting more EXP oftentimes does mean faster fights later. So sometimes you hit an enemy, it is worth just killing them if you can kill them in one turn.
Yeah, part of getting better is just being able to identify which battles are worth running away from and which ones are a one-turn experience gain to try and help boost your stats for the end of the seed.
Okay, so we've got power bounce and we are +2 damage. That should be nice. So there is a specific thing in this fight as well. Turtle Koopa is not a hard fight. He's just a guy with a good amount of HP. The problem is on the first turn, and I think it's every third turn after that, he will invoke a Chomp. And Chomp have 3 defense, if I'm recalling correctly.
I believe so.
So, well, with the amount of power we've got, it will be pretty hard to deal with it as Mario. So I took Watt here, which, as you should remember, can deal piercing damage. So thanks to that, I can just deal 5. And if you noticed in the inventory, I've got a power block. That deals 2 for every enemy, so regardless of the defense. So that gets rid of the Chomp.
There is no overkill, doing exactly what was needed.
Yeah, there is another way we could deal with that if he comes... I forgot I clicked power bounce. There is another way we could deal with him. We just cleared the 3rd chapter. And thanks to that, we've got another power, which is Star Storm, if I recall correctly. Star Storm deals 7 damage to every enemy, and that's a very good power-up. Because the best item you can find, the Shooting Star, we only deal 6. So that power is even better than that. Problem is, as you can see under my HP bar, there is like a star bar. That's the amount of power you can use for the Star Spirits power-ups. And the refresh we used earlier only cost 1, but the Star Storm cost 2. So because we just cleared the chapter 2, we now got a 4 star power bar. So we can use the shooting Star Storm twice. And that will be useful, I think, on Koopa Jr., which got 2 defense as well.
So I guess now that we have the 4 chapters, DRAK did mention Junior. We're heading to Chapter 8, but Chapter 8 is a modified Chapter 8. So the rules that we play with is boss rush format. So we have 4 fights in a row once you get to Chapter 8. We have fights with Tupla Ghosts, then we have Junior Troopa, we have Hallway Bowser, and then Final Bowser. Yeah. And so time is once we've completed that last Final Bowser fight. And a lot of the seed, we've been talking about power and kind of planning for Chapter 8, but it's really just a plan for these 4 fights.
Yeah, unless you have to fight something like Chapter 7, Scaled 7, where the Crystal King got 70 HP and 2 defense, which is probably even harder than the first boss we will have to fight in Chapter 8. The boss are usually way easier before entering Chapter 8. So everything you do up to now is just clear the chapters and find badges and ways to be able to clear Chapter 8.
Right, and I don't... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's also worth pointing out that that boss rush isn't technically like you'd think of with 4 in a row. There is ample opportunity to get free healing around each of those fights. There's a heal block at the start of the boss rush and a bed you can rest in to get a full heal and full star power refresh. So if you're worried that, you know, I'm just getting started and I don't know if I can fight 4 bosses in a row. You don't have to be fully prepared to fight all 4 of them back to back. You just need to have plans on how to take out each one individually.
Right.
Yeah.
However, I think a lot of the difficulty does come from item management for these last fights. Because none of these fights on their own are that difficult when you have a couple of life streams and a couple of repels saved up from the seed.
No.
But when you start running low on life streams, because say like the Junior Troopa fight cost you a life shroom, and then the next fight cost you a life shroom and a repel, by the time you get to Final Bowser, you're down to 1 or 2 of the really good items left that will help you kind of cheese through some of these fights. That's when you get into trouble. So figuring out how to manage your items efficiently and get enough power to save those items all the way for Final Bowser, there's a balancing act there, right? You don't want to take a super slow fight because you're trying to save resources either. It's understanding and being confident in your resources and where to use your resources in this final gauntlet.
Yeah, so this guy is a dupli ghost. I mentioned earlier that if that was Cal 7, he would have 13 HP. Thankfully, chapters cannot have the same scale in difficulty. They are just randomized together. So this one had 7 HP, that was probably like 3 scaled. So that was an easy one. But even though you fight him here in chapter 8, it is scaled on chapter 7. So how do I deal with the other guy? I've got Spike Shield.
Usually at this point... Oh, yeah. Talk about Spike Shield.
I was just going to say, Spike Shield is a badge that doesn't see much use in the randomizer, because we typically know which enemies we're going to be fighting.
Ooh, I did not notice this one.
Ooh, good Mega Smash.
Yeah.
But this Junior Troopa, this next boss fight, has 3 phases, and he has 60 HP, and it's 20 HP per phase, but you can overcap into the next phase. The problem is the second phase, he starts flying, and he grows a spike. So Mario cannot jump on him unless he has Spike Shield. So this is kind of the one fight that Spike Shield is very useful for, because it allows Mario to continue to attack instead of having to rely on items or Starstorm, the 7 damage Star Spirit attack.
Yeah, and remember he said that he's got a spike and wings, so you cannot hit him with boots and hammer. Usually, you need to have that Spike Shield badge, or use items or specific partners like Watt, because Watt is OP, dealing piercing damage. Yeah, dealing piercing damage and flying and stuff. Badge is way too good. Watt is way too good. But yeah, Junior is a very annoying enemy to deal with on phase 2.
So, and also, like I said, right, there's the 3 phases, but you can overcap the damage. So DRAK got him down to 41 HP, which prevents this current transformation from happening because he still had more than 40 health. So hopefully he can get through phase 2 with only 1 or 2 turns here.
Yeah. I've got like 5 life room left, so I will intentionally take a death here. But the main thing I want here is bring Junior down to 20 HP. This enemy got 3 phases. The first one where he was just on the ground, stayed like that until he reached 38 HP. At this point, he just grew wings and a spike. Oh, thanks to last time. Phase 3 here, he just changes form when he's at 20 HP or below. I wasn't expecting to survive this fight.
That went really well. DRAK also used another strategy that you see a lot in the Junior Troopa fight, where on the first turn, he used the last star power that you get in a 4-chapter clear, Chill Out, which always works on Junior Troopa and brings his attack down by 3. So that helps to make it so that Junior Troopa is not going to do as much damage to you for a couple of turns. So you have a bit more freedom to try and manipulate getting to that just above 40 and then really trying to knock him down to minimize that flying spiked phase.
Yeah.
The one thing I don't know, we kind of glossed over it DRAK was looking in his badge inventory right before Junior and noticed he had Mega Smash, which is the equivalent of Mega Jump, where it does +4 damage to your hammer, which is very useful because hammer is 1 instance of damage, and it was 1 BP, 1 FP, which is as good as it can get.
Yeah, that's perfect. Such a perfect badge.
Right, so he kind of got a really good damage setup going into these last 2 fights because both Bowser and Final Bowser are permanently grounded. He will always be able to Mega Smash.
Yeah, just for this fight specifically, we are using Bombette because this All-Way Bowser only got 1 defense. And because of that, Bombette deals just a bit more damage than what? Remember when I said that Holy Bowser and Final Bowser can heal? Well, here we are at 20 HP. Because we are currently at 15, Holy Bowser can heal when you reach 22 HP. And if I recall correctly, when I used Mega Smash earlier, I was dealing 11. So if I use again Mega Smash here, yeah, exactly, it would have healed. And that would have been a problem. So here we will use an attack, not charge, to not bring him at exactly 22. Because we do not want him to heal.
So there Bowser's putting up his invincibility state. It is required that Mario uses Starbeam to dispel this. So it eats up Mario's turn, but your partner will still get an attack off.
Yeah. So sadly for this turn we won't use Bombette, again because we don't want him to be at 22 or lower. For this fight, Bowser actually is not exactly invincible. He turns from 1 defense to 4. So technically we could still deal damage on him.
And he doubles his damage, I believe, if he has...
Yes. That's true, and that's a problem because his flamethrower attack usually deals 8, and when he's in star form, it deals 16. And you notice how much HP we have. You don't want him to stay in shield. So yeah, it's a very technical fight. You don't want to bring him low too fast. And you don't want to let him use power-ups, so you have to work around that.
So going into the final Bowser fight, there are 2 turns before there would normally be the long cutscene where the Starbeam gets powered up. But as part of that cutscene, you get a full heal. So if you have what you need to be able to survive through 1 Bowser attack, you can save some time by not going back to try and heal yourself. So DRAK's confident with his life shrooms that he's not going to have to worry about those first 2 turns before that full heal, full FP restore happens.
Yeah. So here I'm just using a life room directly because on every attack from Bowser he will deal at least 7. His Claws and Storm deals 8, -1 from our block. Will still die, and the flamethrower will deal 10, and even blocking will deal 9. We would die. The animation in fight from dying, then using the life room, Mario jumping back from life, is very slow, like something like 10 seconds. Just hitting the life room before the fight is like 3 to 4 seconds. So we save just a bit of time that way.
You can see with the Mega Smash and Watt, DRAK's damage output is 15 a turn.
Which is really not bad when you consider that very early on we had nothing. The badges were very expensive. We got very lucky to find that Mega Smash. Okay, so here's the problem. Bowser is completely immune to our attacks, and there was supposed to be a cutscene here, and after every chapter where you're supposed to play Peach, You run around her castle, finding some stuff, sending stuff to Mario in the original game. Well, in randomizer, you don't. You just keep everything, and you're supposed to have a fight with Peach and the little star, I think it's Twinkle, where you have to fight Camille. Here, the fight is already done. You don't have to do that. And your star beam powers up into Peach beam, and suddenly Bowser is no longer immune, and you can finally fight Bowser. Okay, so here, unlike Holy Bowser, Bowser's HP is so high that even if he deals you damage, it will take time before he regens. We had 20 HP, and we were down to 11 on his first attack. At 11 HP, Bowser would only heal if he was at 12 HP or lower. No, I think I'm only Bowser. I'm reading it wrong.
29.
Yeah, I think it was about.
Gel.
Yeah. It would only heal at 29 or lower. Here at 1 HP, and actually even if I was at 5, Bowser cannot heal. So he will always use his shield or attacks. And that's our best way to deal damage to him. Remember when we said earlier, Ripple Gel gives you immunity for 2 full turns? We can abuse that, especially in danger modes, where, well, that's your only way to hit Bowser when at 1 or 2 HP, because if he hits you again, you get full regen with the Life Shroom and gets back to full HP, because Life Shrooms gives you 10 HP back, and when you're playing as Danger Mario, your max is 5. And Bowser will heal every time at this point, so you do not want that.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that if Bowser does all 3 heals, you're basically fighting Final Bowser 2 full times to be able to finish the seed.
Yeah, and you really don't want that because Bowser is a very slow fight.
One thing to note there is, even though DRAK was at 1 HP, him dying here puts him up to 10 HP, and you think Bowser's low enough to heal, but you calculate, okay, if he's dealing 15 a turn, Bowser was at less than 30, even if he kills me this turn, he would heal at the end of next turn, so as long as you can kill him kind of within a two-turn window, from that 1 HP, you can decide, do you repel again? Do I just tank a Life Shroom?
And here's the seed. So yeah, the one way to kill Bowser is when you have enough power, when you are low HP, you just go for it. If you've got enough Life Shrooms, you just hit him as hard as you can on these 2 turns, so he doesn't have time to heal. So yeah, that was the Paper Mario Randomizer seed. I think
Well
that...
done.
Yeah, thanks.
It was pretty good time considering that you were talking and explaining throughout. GG's, DRAK.
Yeah, you took several times to just slow down and show things off on screen, so you probably could have shaved another 3 to 4 minutes off of that time just from not stopping to talk.
Yeah, technically you could still show a few stuff. Yeah, let's go back to Toadstown and show a bit of some tricks that we will be using in the tournament. The seed ends on the moment you get the Star Road. So after fighting Bowser, the animation of the road jumps on you, and then you just grab the road, and the seed ends at this exact time when Mario gets the road. Here there was something that I could have used early on that I didn't. That was the early toy box. We had Parakarry very late, and Bo was in chapter 5. This Toad is very specific. If you do not want to talk to him, just want to bring him very close to the ledge, and see you are here, not technically out of bounds, but almost at it. If you just fall out of bounds here, you get here, and for those who don't recognize that, well, if you can hear the sound, that was the stuff that brings you in Toy Box. It just brings you in this room. So you skip finding Bo to reach chapter 4. We had Bombette at this point, so if we wanted to go out of logic, we would be able to almost clear whole of chapter 4 because we had Toy Train and I think we had the cake mix already. So we would just have skipped a few checks in Green Station and would have been able to clear almost the whole chapter. So that in the tournament, the Comic tournament, is something you have to look on because that can save you a big amount of time.
Especially if you're getting down to where you have cleared a couple other chapters or been to a few other places and don't have Bo yet. If it is your most check-dense place left, even though you know that Bo's somewhere else is in logic that you have to acquire, it can save you a lot of time to just go ahead and start checking everything else.
Yeah. I'll show you a few tricks, then I think I'll take my leave after that. We didn't have a showing of chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the easiest chapter. The enemy are pretty slow, pretty low HP, and pretty easy to kill, especially the Koopas. Once you jump down, you jump on them, they just turn on their shell, and they should have one defense before that, and they turn to 0. This specific chapter got another way to skip a lot of stuff, like the early toy box we just showed. Here we are supposed to bring down a bridge using Cooper. Using Cooper, his power on the outward is just, well, reaching out of the way stuff, like this, how do you call that?
Switch.
Yeah, this switch, thanks. But we've got Lucky. Lucky is pretty busted in the outward. Remember when we clipped in Mount Rugged to reach the dictionary? Well, there is something else we can do with him, like this, if that works. He can just, well, float and reach the other side of the bridge and then activate it from here. And that skips Cooper if you want to reach chapter 1. After that, you just need the 4 fortress keys and you technically can rush to the boss. So
you technically need Cooper or Paracarry still. There is one room that you need to be able to get across.
Oh yeah.
But so you could skip Cooper and beat this chapter if you had Paracarry and 4 keys.
So anything you want me to show, Fish and Bread?
I'm trying to think if there's any important tricks.
There is some stuff in 3, but I didn't open Dark Koopa's path. Toy box, I've done that already. I won't be able to show the Raven trick because we opened the way on Raven already. I mean, technically we still could.
Is there anywhere you can show off? Because did we actually get to see a Lackey jump? I know that we did the one in Mount Rugged, but it wasn't possible to see what was happening.
Yeah. I think I used one on, let's say, the Bubbleberry tree. Let's go back
You
and
put in the
that.
water stone, so you won't be able to do it there again.
Yeah, the water
That's
stone
true.
was full. But yeah, you did one on the Bubbleberry tree. I just wanted to make sure that there was a point where you could actually see how the trick happened, since without the visual indication of what you're doing in the overworld, you might not know how to pull it off.
Okay, there is one, but it's very tricky in Desert Palace, and that's one skip that cost me a race last season. In Desert Palace, if you remember where was the last rune ski, there was like the entrance of the room, a stairs that brings you to the left, where was a switch. And in Desert Palace, every pink and green platforms turn the stairs. like from left to right to the opposite. And that's the way you get the runes key. We will be able to see that in a moment. And there is a trick that allows you to completely skip that. And you need Lucky Lester again to do that. Oh, by the way, there is as well this stuff. With Ultra Boots, you can do that. So that way
You made that look so easy.
Yeah. you can do that and skip para carry. And as long as you get Bombette, you can still get the few checks in there. So here's the room. So here the stairs goes to the left. You jump on this platform. The stairs then suddenly goes to the right. You use your super hammer or ultra hammer to break the block, and you get the item. There is another way to get up there, and I think that's... I didn't practice that in a long moment. You need to get unlucky at a specific place and use that lucky jump. So lucky jump, as we said earlier, is where you get unlucky and you click your C stick on the bottom and the right at the same moment. The bottom, C bottom, opens you the power of the partner. So if it's lucky, you would jump on or out of him. If you use the C right, you will open the menu to choose the partners. And here it is. If you just jump from the lower the entrance of the room and use the lucky jump in there, you can skip the activation of the stairs, and most importantly, you can skip having super hammer and ultra hammer to reach this check. And I specifically do not recommend this one for beginners because it's extremely precise.
I guess one comment is if you're looking to pick up the randomizer and you want to be playing with the rule set that we're playing with, I know we have a couple of tutorial videos on how to do all of the tricks and skips. So you can see all of what's allowed and what you're able to do. But if you're a beginner, that's not where I would start anyways. I would just kind of ignore all of the skips and try to learn where all of your checks are. And figure out how to avoid enemies, how to start doing good routing.
And how to get to each of the chapters, learn both ways. I thought of one more for you to show off, DRAK.
Okay.
Whether you want to do it as the Lackey Blue House skip or the Lackey Warehouse key skip, but one of those where you enter the building and the camera doesn't change, just to show off what that looks like.
Okay, so as Fish mentioned, lots of the tricks are pretty hard to learn. But once you get the grip of them, you can save a lot of time. Some are very easy, and this one is pretty easy. Remember, there was one item here when you get in that house. From the beginning of the seed, you can reach this item, which is supposed to be here, by just going here, spin hammer right, spin hammer down. As you can see, the hammer went through the house. And yeah, hammer in this game gives you a longer reach to get items. So that one is a very good one and very easy one to learn. So learn it if you plan to go on Paper Mario Randomizer. As for the skips, he was talking about this one, the blowout skip. Remember when we went for early toy box? Well, this one is way easier, but it's got one of the same problem. If you go in there and suddenly you are in the house, well, the camera doesn't show what's in the house. So you have to learn where you are in the house just by knowing the game or using some hints. Here you can see the shadow of Mario. And if you go like about 1/3 of the house from the left, just jump up and you're on the pipe. That's an easy way to enter this. And with Bombette, and because you needed to break the wall, and the Ultra Boots, you can reach chapter 7 early. And with that, there is one last trick we will show, which is the warehouse skip. Usually, you need the warehouse key to enter the warehouse in chapter 7. When you enter this chapter, there is like an odd sequence where the mayor gets knocked down by a present he's supposed to give to one other penguin in the city. And, well, everyone thinks you've murdered the mayor, so you have to prove that you're innocent. And for that, you're supposed to get in the warehouse and reach the top of the warehouse to reach this house. Yeah, there is nothing, but technically there is something upstairs, but there are no stairs yet. You need to get in the warehouse, so from this place, here, there are a bunch of stairs that will bring you to the upper room. And here, if you go from the chimney, you will reach this room. So yeah, it's all dark because we use the skip. And this guy is the one that the mayor wanted to give a present. So once he reached the mayor will give him the present. And yeah, suddenly you're innocent. The mayor is not dead, and he gives his present. And you can go further in chapter 7.
Yeah, that's important because the rest of chapter 7 is locked behind the warehouse key. So if you don't have it, you can check the shop in here and one or two other things, but there's nothing else you can do in chapter 7. So that gives you the opportunity to get out and do the rest of the checks without being locked by that one item.
Yeah. So I think we can wrap up the seed. We showed a few tricks. There are a few more that are allowed that you could see if you want to watch the streams of the upcoming tournament. We didn't enter chapter 3, but there are a few tricks in this chapter as well. Most of the players will probably not use the one in the gulch. There is like a gap. You can use Parakari to fly over. The gap, I mean the right side of the gap is not straight. It's like very slightly inclined on the right, and you can just slightly jump on it and skip Parakari. It's very precise, but again, it saves you the time to find Parakari. So you have to learn a few tricks like that. But yeah, the races will be fun. If you guys got time, don't hesitate to check that and ask questions on the chat. Most of the players will take time to answer you and give you some tips. So yeah, anything else, Fish and Brad?
I don't think so. I think that was a really great showcase of what we're doing right now for the summer.
Okay.
I agree. GG's. It was a successful seed. Hope everybody had fun watching.
Yep. So guys, thanks everyone for coming, and I hope to see you on the upcoming tournament that will take place, I think, probably next week, if not in 2 weeks, and will last up to mid-June. I think the finals are supposed to be played for the June 15th. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and see you soon.